The topic of mansplaining is going viral in the stand-up comedy world again. I've seen a lot of stand-up comedy clips about this topic. You know, mansplaining, the idea is that I think the idea behind it, from what I can get from the stand-up pieces, is that men tend to think that they are smarter than women, and that women don't know anything and need men to explain it to them. Is that, you've heard of mansplaining, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that, am I summarizing that? Is that what people think? Factual. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not sure I think that exists. I want to push on that, especially that there are a lot of younger gals who listen to this podcast, and I'm not making that up like I do with some other demographics. They've been coming to my shows. Someone commented on that. The manager of the comedy club in Denver commented on that. She's like, I am surprised at how many girls in their 20s were here. And so especially for you guys who are in your 20s or in your 30s, I want to caution you against buying into this idea too much, because I think it's not good for you. And I think it activates your reticular activating system in the wrong way. And you're at the right podcast. This is definitely Jen's podcast that we're like less than 2 minutes in, and we're already talking about the reticular activating system and all that. I think it makes you see the world in an incorrect way that won't help your relationships with men, but it also won't help your self-esteem. And I think that this is kind of rampant actually among modern women. And I see a lot of different perspectives being in stand-up comedy, and I see this a lot among the young female comics. And so this will be my advice to young women about how I think they should see themselves vis-a-vis men. And my credentials for talking about this are that I've always worked in male-dominated industries. I was a programmer in the high-tech world. That was not normal to be a woman doing that. I started college for mechanical engineering. That is not what I graduated with, because I was like, this is more work than I really care to do, if we're being totally honest. I liked it, but it was like, and then no. But that, I come from a long line of engineers, and I thought I was going to be an engineer. And a lot of my female friends are engineers, programmers, technical type people. And so I went from programming to talk radio to stand-up comedy. Short of being a firefighter or like a professional log thrower, like those guys you see on ESPN2 during a holiday weekend, it would be hard to find more male dominated fields, and that's been my whole career. So I also had a stint in Catholic apologetics, so that's also that. So I've worked in mainly male-dominated fields, so I have a lot of experience interacting with men, and I do know what women are talking about all the time. Men say things to me that they would not say to a man, but in this episode, I'm going to explain to you what I think is behind it and what I think is the right way to interpret that. But none of that matters because we have rap beef news. Yes, it's great, and this is probably the oldest rap beef where everyone is still alive. I mean, there are older rap beefs, but they ended dramatically. But this is the oldest rap beef where everyone is still alive, and there is real, just true anger behind it. I mean, this one is deep, and it's old, and it's probably the funniest one as well. And whenever I'm feeling blue, I think about this rap beef. It brings me such pleasure. It's crazy how much pleasure it brings me to think about this. So we've got that. We've got, I will tackle mansplaining. Also, I was on a show a few days ago, and I bombed. That doesn't happen as much these days, but it's good for good character building experience to be on a stage where you are making jokes and the audience does not desire for you to be in this room. They wish they were somewhere else. They wish you were somewhere else for sure. This was on an Austin show. This doesn't happen at my shows, but I mean, I might have like a new thing I'm trying out where it's like, I need to never do that joke again because nobody got it. Or, you know, I might be in Wisconsin where it's not their culture to laugh. Okay, I'm sorry, Wisconsin people. I will get the inpatient psychological therapy that I so deeply need after my last Wisconsin show. But in general, this doesn't happen at my shows, but I do. You know, in order to be good at this, you need to do comedy in front of people who have no idea who you are and have never heard of you. And in general, I've been doing great on those shows. Not this one. And I think there's actually a couple of good lessons on leadership and things like that came out of it. So I will tell you about that. Absolutely horrific experience. And as usual, so the main topic is the mansplaining thing. We will get to that in the second half of the show. The flow of this podcast is I set up the main topic straight out of the gate, and then we go into some intro topics. In this case, that will be the rap beef, and then we get back to the main topic at the end of the show. Welcome to the Jen Fulwiler Show. We are coming to you from Austin, Texas. This is the podcast where you learn the art of the village hustle. That's being a hot girl boss or hot boy boss. I think we should coin the term boy boss. Who knows that love and family and community are the foundations for all true success. I am your host, Jen. I am a stand-up comic, best-selling author, and mom of 6. I'm also, my interest lately is showing you guys how to step into your villain era, where it's not like you're not objectively, you know, doing bad and wrong things. I only occasionally am an example of that on this podcast, but villain era is like you're okay with being the villain in other people's stories. If that's what it means to follow the path for your life, you're okay with being the villain in other people's stories. So that is a big theme on this podcast as well. If you are a new listener, and we publish new episodes every single Wednesday morning, and our lovely producer is Caitlin White. I always plug the Patreon. It's always great. Oh yeah, that's right. We'll do a Patreon live. I know I said we would do a Patreon live 2 weeks ago and we didn't, but I'm serious this time. Let me just think about my calendar. Yes, I don't think I have plans this coming Saturday. I think it's the last Saturday in April. We will do a Patreon live, and I think I'm going to spill on. I'm missing a lot of money again, and I think I'm just going to show you guys this statement and just see what you guys think. How should I handle it? Because the people who have the money. That I'm unclear on why they have the money and I don't have the money. They're not replying to me. So maybe let's just lay it out. Let's just lay it out on Patreon. And by the time that episode rolls around, maybe, you know what, maybe I will get on that Patreon live. And I'll be like, oh, it's so funny. Just a misunderstanding. It's just a misunderstanding. Yeah, I didn't, you know, because it was a statement of money that I earned. But all of those negatives were like, I forgot that I signed up for a charitable donation to just give them my money and have it be their money. And I just totally forgot that I signed up for that. So this is, it's all fine, guys. And there's no beef, and I'm not getting on an airplane to talk to people, or it's all fine. So maybe that will be what happens at the Patreon live this coming Saturday. What is that? Is that April 26th? 26th. Yeah. So we'll do that. I'm coming with the receipts again. This is what I use my Patreon live for. It's just all the stuff that I can't say publicly. But genuinely, I'm actually dead serious, guys. I have to be misunderstanding something. Caitlin, after we tape this, just remind me to show this to you. I have to be misunderstanding something. I truly believe this might be my fault, because like it couldn't be as egregious as it looks. Just because it has been in the past, it doesn't mean that. Okay, so I'm gonna put statements on the. I get more use than almost anyone who does Patreon lives on the share screen feature. Yeah. We've done this before where it's like, do you see all these minus signs? So that was for this. I never signed up for that. I never consented to that. So I mean, maybe in the future, my Patreon lives will be like reconciling my bank statements. I'm like, hang on, guys, that was just an Uber. Okay, that's when I DoorDash Taco Bell. But I feel like we're going to get to something that makes me mad. Just stick with me, guys. QuickBooks is running slow today. So you can sign up for my Patreon at any level. I have multiple levels. Any level gets access to these live events. And that website is patreon.com/thisisjen. And that link is in the show notes as well. Patreon.com/thisisjen. And then the other thing you get instant access. You unlock everything instantly when you sign up, including the after parties that we do, like after each podcast episode here. But the other thing is you get the archives of all of my previous Patreon lives. And I think you can cancel Netflix. If you have not seen my previous, they're in the category called State of the Dumpster Fire. If you have not seen my previous State of the Dumpster Fire addresses, I do think you can cancel Netflix because we had, like, I just went off when my, well, I don't want to say it publicly. I went off about something that happened a while back. And then I went off again about some money that was missing. And then my face got paralyzed. I mean, it's my life it's drama, you know? It's my life is, and okay, tangent alert. I know that some people have to think that I am attracting this. Like, how could someone, I mean, in one calendar year, I got banned from the largest hematology office in Texas. I got dropped by my agent and my manager. I got ripped off by a certain situation. And then half of my face was paralyzed when, like, I'm a stand-up comedian. That's just not what you want. And I know people must think you are a chaotic person who you are making choices. Speaking of reticular activating system, you have to want this on some level or else it wouldn't keep happening. You know what I thought? You know what I was thinking the other day? That my young life began, like, the first interesting thing that happened to me in my young life is that I was on a plane that experienced complete engine failure and had to land on an active highway. How could I have attracted that? I was a child. But this was God saying early on, this is the kind of life you're headed for, you know, like, this is going to be like, this is your life that you are, you know. So I wasn't like a chaotic 2-year-old, you know, that happened. It's just God just has me on the, like, crazy stuff happens to me all the time plan. So anyway, if you're curious about that story, I realized I don't drop that nearly enough. I should start every conversation with that story.
Yeah, seriously.
Also, this I have told you guys before, that I was also conceived on a plane. I don't know why I know that. I shouldn't know that, but and it was, my dad owned a small plane. It was not like, oh, so that's why my parents are on the no-fly list. Like, it wasn't, yeah. But it does, I'm actually working on something that I might do in my next stand-up comedy special. Like, I do feel like I have more of a right to be scared of turbulence than you guys, because, I mean, obviously God wants my life to be a real novel here, a real, you know, just kind of Game of Thrones style epic. And, like, what if God wants to, like, bookend my story, you know, like, her life began on a plane and, you know, wouldn't it be poetic if it ended, you know? So, and I think of that when, like, I'm on a plane that is not doing well. I'm like, this is, I have a very dramatic history with planes. And so anyway, I haven't figured out a way to turn that into stand-up. I've tried and it's bombed every time I've tried it, but I feel like there is a great premise there, and it's 100% true. So let's hope my mom skips this podcast episode. So what my point is, patreon.com/thisisjen. That's what I'm trying to get to, is it's the behind the scenes on the fantasy epic that is my life, and especially my little state of the dumpster fire dresses. And I'm sure some chaos is coming. So, I mean, it's been a couple months since something completely insane happened. I'd like for the next one to be like I just blow up and I'm a millionaire, and like that's what we have to talk about. Like I'm hosting SNL and I just have so much money. Maybe that'll be the next drama. Okay, so let's get into. Okay, I'll go into the rat beef in a second. I just want to tell you about how terrible it is to bomb. I was on a show. Usually, when I say on a show, that is not my shows that you guys go to that I tour with. When I say on a show, I forgot to promote my shows. Columbus. I'll be there May 7th. Can you look it up?
Oh yeah.
I think it's 7th. Columbus May 7th. New York City May 10th. So yeah, it is. Okay, Columbus May 7th. New York City May 10th. Get your tickets. Okay, so when I say I'm on a show, that's not like when I'm going to Columbus here in a week or so and New York City. Those are my shows. When I say on a show, I am booked along with like 5 or 6 other comedians. We each have 10 or 15 minutes. And then these are local audiences. Like I did a local audience in Denver right before I filmed my special. I was just on a show that a bunch of other comics were on. And then here in Austin, I'm very frequently on shows. So this was one of those where it's like no one knows me. Like no one even knows anyone who has ever heard of me. Typical 20s, 30s audience. So when I say I'm on a show, that's usually the audience. And I've been doing great with them. Like when I was on that show in Denver, I crushed. It was so good. And it was a very Denver, very hip, lots of pink hair, lots of face tattoos and piercings, that kind of crowd. And they loved me. It was great. Not the experience, sadly. Alas, that was not. I mean, these people, they just, man, I couldn't, I pulled out some of my jokes that like, they never don't work other than Wisconsin. Like they never, sorry, I will seek therapy. They never don't work. Like any crowd, anytime, they destroy. It felt personal at some point. It's like, okay, I mean, they were laughing, but you know what? It was almost a compliment. Like they didn't want to laugh. They were being hostile to me, but I made them laugh anyway. But it was this very like, they would kind of pull the laugh in as soon as it escaped. Here's what I think happened. The host was great. So the gal who's, I guess the word that people would use is like MC, the person they go up and they do some comedy and then they go up in between each person and introduce them. So that's a host. So the host, very sweet. I like her a lot. Really liked her a lot. I hope I'm on another show with her. But she felt like her set did not go well when she was up first. And she did one of the things you cannot do in stand-up comedy. And the reason I'm telling you this is because there's a life lesson embedded in here. You can't say what I've heard multiple female comedians say when they're bombing is, and I didn't necessarily think she was bombing, but she did. She was like, you guys don't like me. You guys hate me. Like, you guys really don't like me. And that's what, I mean, anything but that, like anything but that, because being on a stage, especially for comedy, you have to show strength, even if you are playing a character who is down on their luck, not a powerful person or whatever. The audience does have to know that you're okay with this. Like even if you're bombing or whatever, like that you're solid, you're good. It's not personal, because otherwise it's just too painful. So like you're just, the audience is like worried about you if this starts to seem personal. Like if it seems like you are on that stage to be liked, and that is your primary driving force for why you are there, it's going to go very, very badly, because the audience will just be kind of worried about you, and so they won't be laughing. And so to comment that the audience doesn't like you is it just brings that to the forefront that like, oh my gosh, she's here to be liked. Ooh, and she's not happy with the result of this. And so I would, and if any of these female comedians see this podcast, I love you guys. I just don't say that they don't like you, because it tends to really unravel with the crowd. And this is true, I would say, in dating. This is true if you go to a party where you don't know anyone. People can sense if you're there to be liked. It is kind of a, like, you're sucking the energy in to yourself rather than radiating energy outwards. This is, I should write a book about like what I learned in stand-up comedy that applies to life. It takes courage to radiate energy outward, but it's very endearing when you do, because then other people can just receive. They can just receive the love and the confidence and whatever. When okay, let's use stand-up comedy. So when you walk on a stand-up comedy stage and you're like, I don't know, I might do well, I might not. These people might love me, they might hate me. It really doesn't matter, because I'm here to do my best job entertaining them. I love what I do. I'm glad that I'm here. And so I'm just going to kind of radiate that and do my best. Now imagine applying that to a date. Imagine applying that going to a party or someplace where you're kind of, you feel like the odd man out. You don't know people. When you roll up with that outward radiating energy, for women, I almost think of it as like a maternal energy. Like, imagine that all of these people are your children. Like, have you heard the public speaking advice? They're like, imagine everyone in the crowd is naked. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Is that not the weirdest thing?
I don't even understand how you do it.
Well, right. And also, what kind of perverted mind is like, whoever came up with that quote, they spend a lot of time thinking about that. Because like, I don't use a lot of my mental energy. Like, if you were to see a pie chart of what Jen thinks about in a day, it would be very disturbing, but there wouldn't be a noticeable chunk at all for like what other people look like naked. It's not. Yeah. So if you can come up with that really quickly, like, oh, I bet that guy, that's strange. The other thing is, who wants to perform in front of a room of naked people? Like, who desires that? I guess the idea is that they don't have power.
Yeah.
If they're naked?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so everyone just pretend you've never heard that, because it's just beyond weird. If you're doing public speaking, you're on a date, you're walking into a room, whatever, like where you really worry what people there will think about you. Do not imagine people naked. Think of them in a maternal way. And this is true even if you are 15 years old, you don't have kids, you can get there. And for men, think of it in a paternal way. Like, these are your children. Again, even if you're a young person, maybe you've babysat, you can imagine what it would be like to have that, if you've ever taken care of a baby or a toddler, like you just have this affection for them. And this is a one-way thing of, you are showering them with just love and whatever they need. And you're not like, that toddler was not very affirming of me today. Little Connor, when he just said he had to use the potty, but he did not compliment my outfit like at all. He did not seem happy to see me. That would be very weird. That would be a very weird attitude to bring to a child of any age. Like, if you're a mom, even if your kid is 20, that would be so weird. Like, if I see, one of my teenage daughters and I'm like, well, she didn't tell me I look nice. But like, that's so weird. So we can all get there. And that is how, when you are public speaking, okay, it might be weird if you're on a date with someone, like, to imagine them as your kid, but bring that same energy of, the energy can just flow this way. Like, I'm sharing love and confidence with you, and I don't need affirmations. I'm just kind of here to bless you. And of course, again, with dating, like, over the long term, it is a give and receive. Obviously, you would have to receive stuff back. But I'm talking about when you're initially encountering people who you don't know very well. So I learned this very well in stand-up, and that is why for the many female stand-up comedians who are listening, I'm sure that's a very large demographic here. Do not ever say on stage that the audience doesn't like you. That I mean, you're not going to, I mean, you thought you were bombing before. Say that and you will see what a true bomb is. I think I've seen 4 girls do it in the past couple years. And it is like being in a sensory deprivation chamber, the silence that hits that room. So anyway, so that's what happened. Again, she was very sweet. I think her comedy is great. It was just, she just had a rough night, but don't say that. So a couple of guys went up, and I'm like the only clean comic in Austin, so of course their sets were a little raunchy, a little wild, but they did great. They're very talented comedians. They did a great job. And then so I'm back there, and so she introduces me by saying, there are a lot of things you can say when you introduce a person. Some people list my credits, or like she has a comedy special out that you can see on YouTube. Let's bring to the stage Jen Fulwiler. Like that's great. What she did was she was like, all right, our next comic is Jen Fulwiler. Let's hope you like her a little more. Oh, no. Wait. I'm sorry. Start over. She said, our next comic is another girl, Jen Fulwiler. Let's hope you like her more than you like me. Look, I don't want to blame my horrific bomb on that, but the faces that I saw when I walked out on that stage, like this audience had just been chastised, that kind of accused of being sexist. And so then they put that energy on me, that I am also going to be like, if you don't laugh at my jokes, it's because you're sexist. And I didn't mean that to be mocking of the host gal, but just I think that's kind of what they thought that maybe was in my mind. And that was the longest 10 minutes I've had in a long time. And again, there was just dislike in the air. Like they just did not like me. Leadership energy is not being needy of other people, not needing things from other people. And I tried to step into leadership energy. I was like, okay, well, circumstances got this set off to the right start, but then it is on me. I have to own it to turn this around. Like I can blame someone else for the first 5 minutes. Alas, friends, I did not turn it around. That was so terrible. I mean, it was like my tried and true. And then it kind of spiraled, because it was like, I'd be like, okay, I'm scrapping what I thought I was going to talk about. I'm going to hit him with the best of, like, I could make a death row inmate laugh at this. And when they just gave me, I mean, they did laugh. It's not like they were silent. They did laugh. But when it was like this grudging, like, stop immediately laugh, I was like, okay, well, this is personal. And like, and then I was so shocked by it. I just didn't know what to do. So it was terrible. I missed the light too, because I couldn't see that the light is when they like flash a light at you to tell you your time is up. But I didn't see it. So it was horrible. But the lesson is, when you are in front of a person or people who you don't know them very well, and you'd like for them to like you, but you have reason to believe they might not, get into that maternal or paternal energy, and don't walk into that being needy. Like, oh no, I hope they like me. You've just got to get into this, like, these are my children, and I don't know, my children hate me today. Like, but I think the advice I would give that the gal who hosted is just be like, if you feel like your set is not going well, you can't blame the audience, and you have to just be like, okay, this is on me. I am not doing the right material for this demographic in this room, and that's on me, and I can't blame them. And I will continue to radiate like thankfulness that they're here, love for my job, good humor, kind of making fun of myself. The jokes that did work, by the way, when I was on stage, is when I was joking about how much I was bombing. So that's what you have to do, basically, to just, ironically, you are more likely to get the love and approval that you desire if you don't walk into that date, onto that stage, or into that party needing it. Just walk in with the outward radiating feeling, maternal love, paternal love, like I'm just here to bless you. And just watch how that changes things. It really, really changes things. Who cares about any of that? Because we have rat beef news. Okay. I have a bullet pointed list with like sub bullets, and I only do this for rat beef. Like when I talked about how I found God for 2.5 hours in the last episode, I didn't have one note. You guys can, I wasn't looking at notes. Like I didn't really prep that, but rat beef we have to take a little more seriously. We can't just wing it with rat beef news. Okay. So I have mentioned before that 50 Cent and Ja Rule have an old rat beef, like going back to 1999. And this has exploded once again every few years. It's like a cyclical, like a comet that comes around, every few years. Like this just like explodes every now and then, every few years. So the story behind it is, so 50 and Ja were from the similar parts of New York. They lived fairly close to each other in New York. They both grew up, 50 Cent grew up in a really bad part of town. 50's mother was killed, I'm pretty sure violently, when he was a kid. I don't think he ever knew his father. My understanding is that he doesn't even know who his father is. And he was raised in a pretty chaotic house with his grandparents. And just pause on that for a second, that, you're just this kid and like your mom is gone and you don't have a dad and like you're just alone in the world in a really rough part of town. So Ja Rule was from a similar area of New York. I confuse all the boroughs, but he's from a similar area, but a little bit better, like family situation, part of town, like they were Jehovah's Witnesses. And it always grated on 50 that Ja would kind of try to act tough and like be tough. So Ja always wanted to be the tough guy. And 50's perception, you'll be able to tell very quickly who I tend to side with on this. 50's perception was that Ja was like, the big thing in his life is he wanted to be seen as tough when he just really wasn't. So I'm not sure the order of what happened next, but let's see, when was Murder Inc. founded? Well, and I'm sure you guys can all answer that, because everyone, if I don't know what my listeners of this podcast are thinking about, I mean, you guys are like, well, Murder Inc., that was like 1999, wasn't it? Okay, so there was a guy named Irv Gotti, and he was actually kind of a tough dude. He got involved in the record label Murder Inc. Actually, he founded it, and then Ja Rule ended up at Murder Inc. Here's where, if you think this is just fluff, here's where it gets very intense. 50 Cent was as poor could be, living in the literal projects, just like he had nothing. He did not have parents. He had nothing. His only hope in life was that something might happen with this music. He had some local traction. He'd like put out some mixtapes. People said it was really good. And there was reason to believe that this could be his ticket out of like actual hell that he was living in. And so he had a debut album all ready to go. Like it was all set, and everyone was like betting on him. I think they'd given him some advance money or something, and they were like, you're going to be a star. Everyone's going to know the name 50 Cent. This is going to be great. And I think it's hard for those of us who listen to this podcast to even imagine what that would mean to someone who, when I say has nothing, I mean has nothing. Shortly before the release of this album, 50 was shot 9 times. Can you even imagine? Shot 9 times. And then while he was recovering in the hospital, the record label canceled the release. They said, we don't want to be associated with this like street activity. This is not our brand, which is weird. They're like publishing like hip hop. This was like right after Tupac and Biggie. Like, how is this? Isn't this like very on brand? Like, but so they canceled it. This is why I am a lifelong fan of Curtis. Google 50 Cent's real name. It's
Curtis Jackson.
Yeah, Curtis Jackson. That's what I thought. Okay. Curtis Jackson, I am a lifelong fan of his because I really want you to sit with this for a second. Just imagine, like, you have no support. You do not have a mother. You do not have a father. Your grandparents are just overwhelmed. The house is really chaotic. Like they can't pay close attention to like what you're doing. You have no money, like no money. And this was your chance. You had a ticket out of poverty. You had a chance to like have real money and get out of this place that you live. And you get shot and somehow you survive, but then your record deal goes away. The speed at which I would have given up and become a drug addict is like crazy. Like I would have made that decision before the record label even finished their sentence. I don't know how much tenacity I really have. I mean, there's just no way. There's no way, because I would be like, fate is against me. This is obviously nothing ever works out for me. I mean, I would have given up so quickly, and most people would. I mean, that's the logical thing. That is the logical thing. If you come from utter poverty and you just have nothing and you had this chance and you get shot and the record label drops you, like that's a run of bad luck that you're like, yeah, it doesn't even make sense not to quit at that point. Like just become a drug dealer, like whatever. I'm going to get so dinged on YouTube for all this. Like, okay, no, YouTube, don't do that. So anyone, I truly believe 999 people out of 1,000, if not a higher percentage, would have given up. There was some street activity that he could get involved in to get by, and he didn't give up. And eventually, it took a while, but he got a new record deal. On that record was the single Into Club, which was, of course, everything. And that's when he and Eminem started collaborating. Eminem really took a chance on him. But it's just crazy that all happened because 50 didn't give up when he was lying in that hospital after being shot 9 times. And also think about this. If you get, I'm trying not to use that word too much for the YouTube algorithm, but like, let's say you get hit with a certain type of weapon. If I got hit once, you'd never hear the end of it. It would be how I open every single, like just once, but like 9 times. So that's why I'm a lifelong fan of his, because the fact that he didn't quit in that moment and he kept going. And in fact, so everyone told him, don't leave the house because whoever went after you is going to do it again. And he was just like, I can't follow that advice. Like I have to move on. And he felt like that was the right path for him. So he would have a friend who had a certain weapon on him, because 50 wasn't allowed, I guess because of probation or something. He wasn't allowed to have that particular weapon on him. But so he would have a friend jog with him, and he was like, I'm getting my health back. And he would go out jogging and bring a friend with him for protection, even though he had been assured that the guys who already hit him 9 times, they wanted to finish the job and they were going to. And he had been told that. And he was like, I have to move forward with my life. And he went out jogging anyway. And as he got his health back, that's when he I think the record that he ended up releasing with Eminem, I think that was on Aftermath Records. I think it was a little different than the one that got canceled, which is crazy because it's one of the biggest hit records of all time. I mean, like everyone alive in the world knows the song Into Club. Like it was just one of the biggest hits ever. So, okay, now let's take it back to the rap beef. 50 has always believed that Irv Gotti was behind his shooting. Irv Gotti founded Murder Inc. Records, and Ja Rule ended up partnering with Irv and like became pretty good friends with him, and was like just very deeply involved in Murder Inc. Records. So that started, obviously, 50 not a fan, and he and Ja had like other beefs. So I have a couple of extraordinary clips, just truly extraordinary. This is, I played this years ago. I should play it in every podcast episode. This is honestly, in all the years that I've been on radio and podcasts, I actually think this is my favorite clip. I should use it way more often. So I read all rappers' memoirs. If a rapper puts out a memoir, I read it. 50 actually has 2 memoirs, and they are very good. I actually really recommend them. I mean, come on, like you can listen to some, like the guy who wrote, I think it was like The Subtle Art of Not, Caring, and I forget how old James Clear was when he wrote Atomic Habits. But these guys, like, they've literally never been through anything. Like the guy who wrote The Subtle Art, he was like 30 when he wrote that. Like, didn't have kids, didn't have a family. Why are you guys reading these books? Like these influencer books by these 30-year-old dudes. They don't have real responsibility. They grew up middle class. Why are you not reading memoirs by, like, I think 50 wrote his when he was like 42, 43, like guys in their 40s who were shot 9 times when they were living in abject poverty and didn't quit and went on to create their art and be successful. And by the way, keep their money even after some losses and some ups and downs. It's so weird that people are like reading these books by these guys who were like 30 and don't know anything when you can be reading books by 50 Cent. Okay. So 50 did a memoir, and it was very much targeted at a general audience and at a, like, let's just say it, like at kind of a white audience. It was targeted at that, especially the one he collaborated with Robert Greene on. And I mentioned that for a reason, because 50 knew that the average person reading his memoir would not know that much about any of this, about the background or anything. So he's giving some motivational wisdom that is like actually great wisdom. It's really good motivational wisdom. But he uses Ja Rule as an example. And the way he says all of this, like it is just a fact, and it's stuff that would just make Ja insane. But 50's just like, hey, I'm just trying to motivate people. This is just my audiobook. It is the funniest thing I think I've ever heard in an audiobook. Okay, so play it, Caitlin, and I'm also going to have you pause it, I think, at a couple of points. This is the audiobook one.
Environment where people can be honest about their character with you. Otherwise, you're going to build unsustainable situations. That's what ruined Ja Rule's career. Ja grew up as a Jehovah's...
So, like, Ja wouldn't even consider his career ruined, but 50's just speaking like this is a fact. Okay, go ahead.
Witness on the better side of Queens than I did. The only time he came to my part of town is when he would knock on the door and try to sell copies of The Watchtower. A nice religious boy. There's nothing wrong with that. But the people around him, like Irv, tried to turn him against his true nature as a gentle guy and transform him into a gangster. Instead of accepting his blessings, his talent for fun, female-oriented music, they were hell-bent on...
Ja Rule has spent his entire life as an artist trying to seem like a thug from the streets. Can you pull it back like 5 seconds, Caitlin? Because just the way 50 is like, his talent for fun, female-oriented music is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Okay, go ahead.
Accepting his blessings. His talent for fun, female-oriented music, they were hell-bent on turning him into something negative. When they got a record deal with Def Jam, what did they call it? Murder Inc. Records. They had an open road in front of them, but they decided to paint themselves into a dangerous corner. Since none of them were actual murderers, they started seeking out people who had that energy. They eventually found what they were looking for, and it almost brought the whole company down. If you take a close look at guys like Ja Rule, you'll see that they walk with a crutch. In his case, it was the image of a gangster. He took DMX's flow, dressed up like Tupac, and tried to rap about other people's lifestyle. It worked for a second, but as I said, when you're walking with a crutch, there's a limit on how far you can go. If the people around Ja had understood this and given him the confidence to embrace his true nature, things would have probably turned out much better for all of them. They could have kept making feel-good, female-friendly records for years. Those records never go out of style. Instead, Murder Inc. hasn't put out an album in over 10 years. And today, Ja Rule is best known as the fraud making a fool of himself in the Fire Festival documentary. It's always better to empower the people around you to live their truth. When you force them to perpetuate a role, eventually people will see it.
Why are you guys reading Atomic Habits when you guys could be reading this? Yeah. Why are you reading The Subtle Art and all these books when you could be reading this? Because first of all, it's actually a great point. I mean, the point he's making is you're never going to thrive and flourish when you are trying to be someone you're not. But it is the most petty possible way. Okay, now 50 Cent, like, he hates Ja Rule so much that this was years ago, but, or like, I don't know, 8 years ago, 50 bought out the first few rows of a Ja Rule concert and then just sat in it, like just him. Like, if 50 bought all the tickets. Okay, here is an interview where he's asked about it. Listen to the subtle jabs. This kind of subtle pettiness is so hysterical to me. Listen carefully to his subtle jabs here.
Did you really buy Ja Rule's tickets, like seats at his concert?
Man, you did? They were cheap tickets. The tickets were very affordable. Right. They was on like StubHub. Yeah, I bought the first 4 rows.
How many did you buy? If you say you bought the first 4 rows, is that a couple hundred?
Yeah, it was cheap though. It was cheap tickets. So it was something to do. Like if you don't look at me like that, man.
All right, man.
We done for years. It's just, I looked at it. I said, "Yo, this is the." I just want you to feel like you gotta reach the people. Like 4 or 5 rows back.
What is this? What? That 2 decades later, it's still this.
No, I mean it's not that big of a sacrifice for me. Now I've bought things that don't mean less.
He just had to mention it's not that much money. That is the funniest thing too. That he's like, they were very affordable. They were
just cheap.
I mean, this beef has brought so much joy to my life over the years. So, okay, so there is new news. Okay, so Irv Gotti, I guess he did. Can you just Google Irv Gotti? I don't want to say the word for the YouTube algorithm, but I think he's with the Lord now. Like I think he passed away. Did he? IRV Gotti. Okay, so I think Irv Gotti passed away, and okay, recently. He did. Okay, so 50 had some less than kind thing. Like, some people are like, oh, you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, and 50 doesn't really subscribe to that, especially that he believes that Irv Gotti very much tried to take him out. So he did not care. He didn't shed one tear for Irv Gotti. And then, so Ja Rule was on the Breakfast Club show, obviously with Charlemagne, whose memoir I also read. I will say I didn't like Charlemagne's memoir, actually, so I don't recommend that one. but he did also like come up from nothing. But I did not enjoy Charlemagne's memoir. But okay, so Ja Rule was on Breakfast Club, and they asked him about what 50 said about Irv Gotti, and Ja Rule just like went off. And he actually didn't say anything too crazy on the Breakfast Club, but shortly after that, Ja went on Twitter and accused 50 of being a snitch. And he supposedly had documents. Like, he posted some document that I couldn't really understand what I was looking at, and a lot of people on Twitter were like, or X, were a lot of people on X were like, what are we reading? Like, this actually does not seem to say anything that bad about 50. But Ja is now calling 50 a rat and a snitch, and saying that 50 was the one who had, I guess, the feds raided Murder Inc. and got them mostly shut down at one point. And I think that's what 50 was referring to in the audiobook when he said that getting involved with actual criminals almost brought the whole thing down. So Ja is now saying that 50 turned informant to the police. And for that culture, a culture of like making music about being from the streets, and 50 has always prided himself on like, he actually grew up in the actual hood, in the actual streets. That is really the worst thing you could accuse someone of. This is an old, almost every rap beef will, something like this will end up coming up, like with the Drake Kendrick beef, how Rick Ross got involved, and Drake took Rick Ross out quickly by finding pictures of Rick Ross when he worked as a corrections officer, which was like, there is no more against brand thing, because Rick Ross was like, I'm a drug lord from Miami. It's like, no, you're a corrections officer. And then Drake had the line like, I might take your latest girl and cuff her like I'm Ricky. Cuff can have another meaning, but it was also a jab at like Rick Ross being a corrections officer. So this is a known thing. Like, if you can associate anyone in gangster culture with like the law and the system, especially being a rat, a snitch, an informant, it's like because Tekashi 6ix9ine, like obviously that's his career. You guys are like, you were just thinking of that. You were like, yeah, well, obviously his career has not been the same, since it's really clear that he ratted out everyone to get out of that jail sentence. So again, this podcast is always, I mean, what did we talk about episode before last? It's like submarines going to the bottom of the ocean in 1960, and now it's rat beef. I mean, my brand is solid. I know what my listeners care about. But okay, so Ja Rule is now saying that 50 is a snitch and that he has documentation. And he did a tweet. Did I get a copy of it? Did I send you that screenshot of Ja's tweet, Caitlin?
Yeah, I believe so.
Really? I did?
Well, I don't know what
that was. That might have been the comedy beef, actually. Okay. I don't think I got a screenshot. But the most important thing. Oh, here it is. I have it. So okay. Ja says, go ahead and lie. Tell these good people. Tell them the paperwork is fake so I can send this next shot. We got receipts, Boo Boo. So evidently Boo Boo that was 50 Cent's name back in the day. So Ja is reminding 50 Cent that like, I knew you before fame. And so I guess the screenshot he posted wasn't supposed to have all the info in it, but he's saying he has more info that 50 was an informant. And he posted a picture of 50 Cent being stylized as a rat, like ratting people out. And a lot of people do kind of think, someone on X was saying that the timing was interesting, that 50 was publicly saying that he could prove that Murder Inc. had done a bunch of illegal stuff, including trying to have him killed. And then just oddly enough, crazy, like right after that, the feds raided their studio and a bunch of people got in trouble. So a lot of people do kind of think like, well, maybe he did. So this is all very current, very breaking rat beef news. So I suspect that we will be seeing more things like 50 buying out a whole, like the first part of Ja Rule's concert and being like, yeah, that's not that much money to me. You know, it was very affordable. The tickets were very... It's just how calm he is. He's like, they were affordable. Like, you can see it. Look up my YouTube channel. To find this episode on YouTube, just Google or type into YouTube Fulwiler 251, and then this episode will pop right up. And you can see 50 was just like, they were very affordable. I mean, this wasn't really that big of a deal to me. Funniest thing ever, and I think that there is more to come. So you can count on me. You know I will always keep you posted on any rap beef news. Okay, before we get into the main topic, I did the Village Hustle Patreon is the higher level Patreon where I go into the like behind the scenes, like what's going on with my business and how I balance work life stuff. And I just went off on this situation that I can't figure out where certain money went, and I'm not getting my correspondence replied to with my questions about it. And I forget what I was even, I guess I was catching you guys up on how the special went, the special taping that we just did. But right before I went on stage to film my special, I saw something that was like, what? Like, what, that's a lot of money. Like, where did it go? And so I actually intended for the last Village Hustle episode. It was the one that came out this week. What is that? Episode
86?
80. Let's see. Yeah. 86. Yeah. I actually went into it intending that it would be like, hey guys, let's catch up. The special went really well. And I said as a tangent that I got that note about the money being missing. And it just turned into like, anyway, just don't repeat what I say on the Village Hustle Patreon. Patreon.com/thisisjen. You get instant access If you want to see that episode, that is episode 86 of the Village Hustle Patreon. And again, even if you don't do that higher level Village Hustle, if you do the regular, you get the after party episodes, which is additional content from each podcast. And you also, at any level, get the Patreon lives that I'll be using the screen share feature pretty heavily at the one that we are doing this coming weekend. Okay. Mansplaining. There's this idea out there that men tend to kind of talk down to women and like tell them things that they wrongly assume that the woman doesn't know, because men don't think that women know that much or are that valuable, and it's very upsetting to women. Especially for those of you who are in your 20s, 30s, and or those of you who you're dating and you're just kind of in that mix where you encounter things, or like you're trying to come up in your career and you're running into things like this. I want to reframe mansplaining for you, because my take is not that it doesn't happen. It does happen. I know exactly what you mean. It actually happens to me a lot. But I don't think it's what you guys think it is. So the idea behind it is that, again, that like men, they think less of women. Like, they think that we don't know. And I see how women develop that idea because, let me give you an example. So from my world, these days when I go out and I am on tour, such as when I will be in Columbus, Ohio. Oh yeah, I should have said this state. Columbus, Ohio on May 7th, New York City on May 10th. Get your tickets, jfcomedytour.com. So, and Tyler tonight, Tyler, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
How could I? Tonight, this very evening, Tyler, Texas. So I usually use local openers when I go to these places because it doesn't make financial sense for me to bring my own people. And so I'm encountering these comics, a lot of times that are men who I have not met before. And so I am a touring headliner, and that means something. That means that you have gotten to a certain level, that you're not just working locally, you are going places, and you're a headliner and you tour. And so, usually these guys they're working locally, and that's totally fine. This is not a flex, like whatever. I am only saying this to explain that usually I have more experience. Usually I have more years in the industry than they do. But even when I don't, it's like I've clearly done something that shows that I know how this works, because I'm headlining and I live 2,000 miles away from here. So like I've done something that makes this work. But pretty often, let's put a number on it. Not even half the time, maybe like 3 times out of, well, no, that's more than half. Hang on. 2 times out of 5. And this is only with male comedians. I've never had a female comedian do this. They will kind of lecture me about how comedy works. They'll, sit in the green room and be like, and this is before the show, so they haven't even seen me perform or anything. And they'll be like, well, what you got to do in comedy is like, you got to go up there with confidence, and like the way you got to work a crowd, you can't start with crowd work. And they're lecturing me, and it is always interesting. Like, that's interesting that you wouldn't assume that like maybe I should be sharing, like maybe you should be asking me questions about like, how are you headlining? And I'm not, like it is interesting when that happens. Female comics talk about this a lot. This is a very well-known thing that, and I've seen it happen, and it definitely happens, that a gal will be starting in comedy, and the other guys who are, they're still at the open mic level, but they're like high on the open mic level. They're like, well, some of us get 5 minutes. Like, that's just, some of us, have just kind of gotten to a higher level in life. And they will lecture the new female comics, and like the hotter the female comic, the more she gets lectured. Now, remember that. And so these guys will come up and be like, well, here are my notes, on your set. And like, here's what you got to do in comedy. And she never asked. And this does happen a lot. So that is one example that I will come back to. Another is when I worked in high tech. I was like, in this one situation I was in, I ran a certain side of the tech team. So we did all of the, there was web-based programming that needed to be done where people could, I'd like put things in and it would hit a database and calculate things. So I ran that team that did that. And then I had good friends who I had worked with at a previous high-tech company. One of my really close friends at the time, she was a Java developer, which is like, it's such a hard language. I was not a Java developer. She had her undergrad in computer engineering and her master's in computer engineering from like top science programs. She was as like sciencey as it got. And for a while, she and I worked at the same place too. And we would often talk about that these programmer guys would, they would lecture us a little bit, and sometimes in meetings, they would like interrupt us a little bit. Like if we were like, well, I don't think we can hit that. Like she would be saying, I don't think we can hit that deadline because of the way the dev architecture is set up. Like sometimes they would interrupt her in a way that they probably would not have if it had been like a male colleague, even though she had more experience than anyone at the table. And then I had a guy when I was doing that other job that he was like lecturing me about database stuff. He's like, well, with this kind of database, it's like, it's not really meant to work that well with, server side scripting like PHP. And it's like that my business card says I forget what it was, like database, I was the database manager. And it's like, are you talking to me about the thing that like my business card says that I do? Like, why are you lecturing me about this? So that happened all the time. It still happens. It happened in talk radio. So this is a phenomenon. I'm not saying it's not there. It is. But here's the thing. The explanation that you will find from everyone who's not me is that men think less of women. And that's why they're doing it. And this is, hit the seamless tapestry sound effect. Seamless tapestry alert. All of these episodes, like they all weave together like a seamless tapestry. So I was talking in a previous episode about how what we believe about ourselves in the world, it does tend to... we do tend to find it in our experience. This is why a lot of the manifesting people get traction, because there is just brain science behind it that, like, for example, if you, like my mother-in-law, wonderful, my favorite person in the world, like she always believed that everyone wanted to fight with her and was out to get her. And let me tell you, the cops were at her house 10x more than they were at my house. Like, and I just saw it, like how she just had this belief about the world. We lived in the same neighborhood and all this chaos was happening. Like, I'll never forget when it had been spring break and I was dropping my kids back off at our little church, like Mother's Day out preschool. And the preschool teacher leaned over and said to my son, she said, "What did you do during spring break?" And he said, "I went to my Yaya's house." And she said, "And what did you do at your Yaya's house?" And he said, "Well, my neighbor he said, well, my Yaya threw the pan at the neighbor, and then the nice police officer showed up and he told us all to get inside." And I interrupted. I was like, "Oh, the kids and their imaginations. That's so funny. Where did he come up with that? That's crazy." So what you believe about yourself in the world, you will tend to find, and you will bring it in to your experience. Like I've never thrown pots and pans at my neighbors and had the cops show up, and again, I lived in the same neighborhood as she did. So it is an interesting thing. I've told you guys before, I was completely sheltered from the idea that men would think less of women in terms of intelligence, or that women would be not as good at math or science or anything like that. I ended up hearing about it late in high school and in college, but I just didn't hear it. I just wasn't exposed to that. And I come from an old school Texas rural, like, farmer family on my dad's side. And my relatives were very rural country, Baptist Methodist people. And I just never heard it. That just wasn't in my paradigm. I mean, again, my mom was like math major, mathematician person, but like, I mean, even my, like my grandmother, my Texas grandmother, it's like everyone just spoke so highly of her and her intelligence. And I just never heard a remark that would be along those lines. And like my mom never mentioned it. She must have, I don't know, maybe at some point in her life, she might have experienced something like that. But my mom was born in the 1940s and went to major in math in school. And there was no lore there about how like the man didn't want her to major in a STEM. So there was just nothing. It was like, she was like, yeah, I'm going to go to college and major in math. This was in North Carolina. Like people, would probably be like, well, she probably lived in New York City where we're progressive. Like, no, this was North Carolina. And this is, she just like went to college and majored in math. And she was immediately hired at the Naval Weapons Research Laboratory. And nobody was like, can you do that for a girl? It was just like, oh, your resume is good. We think that you can calculate these kill ratios of how well our torpedoes will like take down submarines. She just didn't, I never heard, and to this day, she said she was not really exposed to that either. And so on both sides of my family, like it was just, there was this respect for women. And it wasn't the, man bun carrying a dog and a baby backpack, like, progressive, like, I think women are so smart. I'm a male feminist, which is like so weird because that always makes me uncomfortable as a woman. I'm like, but if you really believe that, you wouldn't have to say it all the time, because it's like no one is like going up to a guy who is 300 pounds and 6'5" and being like, no, you could be a linebacker. No, listen, don't ever let anyone tell you that you couldn't, because you could. No, stop. You could do. It's like, if something is obvious, you don't have to like foam at the mouth about it all the time. And that was how respect for women went on both sides of my family. And also, like, I lived a lot of places. I mean, I was pretty young when we lived in West Virginia, but I remember it well. And I don't remember that being an issue in West Virginia, North Dakota, Arizona, Colorado, Texas. I just didn't experience lack of respect for women or their intelligence or whatever. But I think the culture I was raised in with my family was pretty healthy in the sense that it also wasn't like gender doesn't exist. We're all just one blob unit or like what, it's like it like men and women are different. They are, like for sure they are, but it's not like you don't have to make a big deal out of that either. We can all just be normal and like honor women and honor men and whatever. And I actually think like old school Texas culture actually did a pretty good job of that. Like I know a lot of old school Texas women. I knew women who were in Texas with no running water, no electricity, toughest women you'd ever meet in your life. Like no one was disrespecting them for 2 seconds. Like it would not happen. And, so anyway, but they were feminine. I mean, they were women. So I did see a difference between the genders, and I did see that each gender has different motivation and is treated differently, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. And it certainly doesn't necessarily mean that any one gender thinks the other is like less smart. And so here is how I interpreted it when I was in high tech. And these guys would, just kind of interrupt, and people would use the term today, mansplain, to me and my programmer friend. To be totally blunt, at the time, like I was like 23, she was 25. My take was like, I think they're hitting on us. Like, honestly, like, I think, we were cute women, and these guys hadn't seen a lot of women, like, period. Like, it had been a while. And I interpreted it, because it wasn't in my reticular activating system, because I didn't have that area of my brain that a woman with the proper credentials, like, that people wouldn't take her credentials seriously. I just went to any other explanation. And honestly, I think the other explanations were more accurate. Maybe hitting on was a strong word, but one of the differences between the genders is that men do want to impress women. Okay, no, we have a kitty meowing at the poltergeist store again. Men want to impress women. I mean, that's men from time immemorial. It'll never stop. And it doesn't even have to be like a romantic thing. Men just, it could be a 20-year-old man and a 55-year-old woman, but men like to impress women. And that was the energy that I felt when me and my friend were in this room of guys who were roughly the same age as we were. And when I tell you they didn't see a lot of women, I mean, like, really, like, these guys worked all the time. They were nerdy programmers. Some of them were immigrants and like, they hadn't really met a lot of people locally. And so, look, we stood out. Like, we wore cute makeup and, not inappropriate outfits, but we dressed, we were cute. And it changed the vibe. It did. It changed the vibe when we sat down at those meetings. And so, when that sort of interrupting would happen, both of us we would just kind of set a boundary of like, hey, like, hang on, I wasn't finished. And we would correct that mistake. And I never minded just, if I was getting interrupted, like, hey, I did not finish what I was saying about the plan. Like, relax, calm down, just let me finish. And if I had to escalate, I would escalate. I would go to their boss or whatever and be like, this one guy keeps interrupting me. And just from a goal-oriented perspective, we're not able to finish this meeting because I need to say what I have to say, and this one guy keeps interrupting me, and I'm not even mad, but he just has to stop. So I think one element also that comes into play with mansplaining is like the women who are really bothered by it. They don't want to set that boundary. They don't want to, in the meeting, be like, hey, I wasn't finished. They're like, people are going to think I'm a B word. People are going to say I'm a B. Like if I do that. And again, because I just didn't have the part of my brain that people would not respect a woman who was qualified to be sitting in that seat. It just didn't occur to me that people would think I was the B word. Like I was like, I did get interrupted. You guys all saw it. I had not finished my sentence. So anyway, I'm going to finish my sentence now. And I don't think people thought badly of me. I actually don't think that people dislike me for it. It was kind of fine. So now fast forward to comedy. All right. So when I've got these guys who are, some of them really the only thing they're doing is local open mics in their local town, which is fine. That's great. A lot of them, they've got day jobs. This is a side hustle. They're pursuing their blue flame. I love it. It's all great. But it is strange that they would lecture me about how to do comedy. And for sure, like 100%, they wouldn't do it to a man. I've asked male comedians. It does not happen. It would not happen. So is there something that is happening to me because I'm a woman? Absolutely. But is it negative? Is it definitely because they think less of me? I don't think so. It's that I think they want to show that they have had success in this field too, that men want to be seen as accomplished and skilled at anything they do. And I think what they're trying to do is even the playing field a little bit, that in their deep subconscious caveman brain, I think that they are thinking, again, this is not conscious at all. I think subconsciously they're like, this woman she's at a different a stair step up in her career than I am, and I want to show her that I'm worthy to be on the stage and to open the show. And so I'm going to share my expertise here. And again, it's in a ham-handed way. They should not be like talking down to me like, so what you got to do with crowd work is, and it's like, they've never even seen me perform. I might be great at crowd work. Like, they have no idea. But that's what I think is going on there is it's, again, men always want to impress women. Even these guys there's no way they're hitting on me. It's not that. It is not. They're like 25 and I'm, it's like they could be my son. Like, it's not that vibe at all. But I do think I'm female, they're male. There is a little bit like they want to impress, but also they just want to show that like their inner child is screaming within. Like, I know more than you think I do. I know more than you think I do. Actually, a guy I pulled up a female stand-up comics video about mansplaining. And one of the comments was from a guy who says, I'm not mansplaining. Oh, because she was talking about how they'll go off on like World War II or the Roman Empire or something. He says, I'm not mansplaining. I just have a touch of autism and like history. I'm not mansplaining. I just have a touch of autism and like history. That is so well said. And a lot of men naturally act a little bit in that sort of on the spectrum way. And that's the, I think, final thing that I want women to understand here is that when men get really fixated on something and they talk too much, a lot of it is in the area of something that they have expertise in. I think their biological, like, evolutionary psychology drive is to show expertise in something. So it could be, the reign of some obscure Roman emperor, or like the conquest of Alexander the Great, or something about World War II, or the John Wick movies, or whatever. But that's what kind of tends to get them going, and it kind of gives them this internal dopamine hit to be like, yeah, hey, yeah, I know about it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it's like, the open mic comedian sitting me down to tell me how comedy works. He's just like, he's getting a dopamine hit. Like, yeah, actually, yeah, I do. I know about crowd work. I've done crowd work. And I think we need to understand there is a female equivalent. I don't think we are as evolutionarily driven to show expertise, like that. There's not as much of a social payoff there, but let's face it, like there is a reputation of like, men, we want you to hear about our day. I mean, there's like 30 Rock had a really funny episode where it was like, I don't want to say the word for the YouTube algorithm, but adult content for women was just a guy being like, tell me about your day. No, like go into more detail, because that is how we get that kind of payoff. That, let me put it this way, ladies, when you just have a great conversation with your husband or boyfriend or whoever, where you're just like, I'm just feeling, I'm feeling this way, and Sharon is not texting me anymore. Do you think she hates me? And like, do you think this person who hasn't replied to my email, like, did I do something wrong? Do they hate me? Does everybody hate me? And when he's like listening and he's like, well, like, why do you think Sharon isn't replying? And like, well, it's just that we have this history with, I just think she's jealous. And by the way, men, just always be like, she's jealous of you. Like that really does. When my husband has learned, he's like, yeah, she's probably jealous of you. I'm like, oh yeah, I bet they are. So women, that is kind of what gets us talking, is unpacking social dynamics that cause us tension. It gives us a dopamine hit. And let's face it, many of us have had situations where we went on a little too long about it. Now, this does not come across as condescending, but I do think men can almost feel like, okay, we just lost a light. That's fine. I do feel men can feel, I think men can feel almost, used or something. Like, why aren't we talking about real stuff like sports? Like, it's just, I don't care what Sharon did, So women need to realize that we do it too. It just doesn't tend to come across as condescending. But I do think it can be, when we do it wrong, a little dehumanizing to the recipient. And so male stand-up comics have called it she-laborating instead of mansplaining, she-laborating. And that is fair enough. So here's why I bring all of this up. If you're a woman who believes in mansplaining in the sense of, like, they think that women are less than, like they think that we're dumb or whatever, that's not healthy for you, because you are going to start to internalize that. You are going to start to just feel that way in your own mind, and that is not healthy for you. And I think that women, especially like my comic friends who follow the kind of secular way of doing things, I think they have a lot of trauma that hits their self-esteem that they don't even realize, and that they're kind of taking that inner trauma of like not feeling good about life and themselves, and they're kind of putting that on men and just constantly seeing men like saying condescending things or whatever, when it's like, some of these women, I'm like, you live in LA. You're in the arts in LA. I defy you to find one sexist man. Like, I actually could. In the Catholic ghetto, I could find a couple weirdos who are like, women are less intelligent. They need to stay home and like bake sourdough. That's because that's what God wants them to do. I could actually find a couple men who believe that, but you couldn't. Living in LA as a stand-up comic, you can't find one man who is not like a male feminist and says all the right talking points. Like, it's never happened. You've never had a man like condescend to you in LA. Come on. So it's literally, I'm like, these women, I'm like, who are you hanging out with that says it? Not one man in the metropolitan area of Los Angeles, California has never thought less of a woman or anything like that. So, I just want you guys to be careful about buying into this secular story that when men are like talking to you about their area of interest and showing expertise, that it's because they think you're so dumb and they think you're less than and they think you're not worthy, because it's not true. It's not like, what is this banger quote? Like, it's so it's not true. It could be either they're just trying to show expertise, or in this guy's case, I'm not mansplaining. I just have a touch of autism and like history. and again, ladies, it is not healthy for you to walk around and reinforce this idea in your subconscious that all of these people out there, all these shadowy male figures, think that you're so less than and you're dumb and you don't deserve to speak at the meeting. Because like, I think actually the opposite is true. Yes, what they're doing is sometimes rude. It's objectively rude, and you should set boundaries and you should call them on it. But really, I think it's actually the opposite is true. They're very impressed with you, and they are trying to impress you. They are, and I know they shouldn't be interrupting. They shouldn't be going on and on. There's another way to do it. But just like when we women sometimes talk a little bit too much about like the drama with Sharon, the office manager, and is so-and-so mad at me. It's, well, we do it because we're just enjoying that moment of connection. Even if our husbands are like, please make it stop. Oh! Like they're like blinking, help at the neighbors. We are enjoying, yeah, exactly. We are enjoying that moment of connection, and men have that too. It just tends not to be about, drama and who's not replying to their texts. It's like World War II and the Persian Empire and, Alexander the Great. So do not walk around thinking that all these men think you're less than or you're not smart or whatever, because it's not true, and it's not healthy for you to think that, because actually men are really impressed with you. And when they're doing annoying things like that, it's probably just a desperate attempt to measure up to the pedestal that they have put you on. All right, Columbus, May 7th, New York, May 10th, and Tyler, Texas tonight, Tyler, Texas. How about that? Can't believe I'm doing a show there, but I'm excited. It'll be great. Tickets at jfcomedytour.com, patreon.com/thisisjen. Join us for the live this weekend, and I will be back with you next week here on the Jen Fulwiler Show.